I was looking for places to go and see, and my son suggested the Blennerhassett Island. He said it was a state park in Parkersburg, West Virginia. On this trip, we set out for a weekend adventure in West Virginia. The day before, we visited the Palace of Gold. There's 2 videos on that adventure that you can watch. And then we stayed overnight at a hotel halfway between the 2. The next morning, we continued on to Parkersburg. Our GPS actually took us along the Ohio side of the river for a while, and then we crossed back into West Virginia, where we passed by a power plant in Belmont, West Virginia, Pleasants County, the Pleasants Power Station. Once we reached Parkersburg, we followed the signs and directions straight to the Welcome Center. We arrived at downtown Parkersburg. We were looking for 113 Ann Street. It was supposed to be underneath the bridge overpass. I found where it said there was dedicated parking for the island available beside the Blennerhassett Museum at 137 Juliana Street. Under Route 50 exit, the entrance ramps.
On the right-hand side.
There's a sign for the parking in the gift shop in the museum. Inside, we met Donna, who was so informative and engaging. She shared with us some incredible history about the Blennerhassett Island Historical State Park, and that's what I want to share with you in this video. So we're in the Welcome Center in Parkersburg, and
Yes.
then you're recommending we do what now?
Well, the museum is located north of here, just about 2 blocks. I'll take you outside and I can direct you directly to it if you'd like. The boat will be coming on the hour. It always comes on the hour. When you all feel like you want to leave, just come back to that very same spot, and on the half hour, you can come back whenever you feel like you want to come back. There's a small snack bar over there that will have hot dogs, drinks, chips, things such as that. Not sandwiches though. But you do have a way of getting a little bit of a lunch over there if you'd like. So we got flooded real bad, and that wiped out our, eatery for lunchtime over there. And it's at the end of the season right now. We only have 2 more months left, so that's why. Now I'm going to give you a wonderful piece on the history.
Last boat leaves the island at 4:30, so you've got plenty of time to go over and back.
How long is the boat ride? How long is the boat ride?
20 minutes. 20-minute ride.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be the island schedule right here. This would be the museum schedule. The pricing is right there, so you can have that along with that history piece if you wish.
It's a little wrinkled. We carried it around all day.
Thank you. Here and I can show you, so that way if you want to see that film, it would be available to you. Like I say, you have parking lot, parking lot, parking lot. See where our tree is right here and the light pole in our lot right here? Mm-hmm. In between the 2 is a brick building on the other side of the railroad tracks. And then the 2 horns, I guess you'd say, are up there. That is the museum. It has a door that's like this. It's not on that street. It's not on this street. It's right there kind of slanted, that you can go into. When I was up there, I did not realize that they actually have the sink from that mansion in that museum. Because it burnt down. Yeah. Unfortunately, slaves had a lantern. Hemp was stored within that structure after the Blennerhassetts had left, and boy, that dry straw, that lantern just, the heat of it probably caught it, and it burnt down. It's since been built back again, but it is not of the same. Indeed, it was a home that had silver chandeliers and had silver doorknobs. They had $2 million in silver when they came here. In Ireland, they have a different structure than we do in America, where a lot of times you can pick and choose who you want your money to go to. In Ireland, it goes to the next eldest son. Harman Blennerhassett's father had died, and then his next brother had died, and then his next brother had died, and Harman received 3 people's castles, estates, selling all that. That's why he had $2 million in silver when he got here. And they, came through New York like everybody else did, trickled down through, buying as they came. They had to hire a lot of laborers to help carry the furniture and things over the mountains, but they wanted to have the most beautiful home in America. This indeed was. It was a home that was not shuttered. log cabins and homes at that time, period of time, were with shutters. That's how you kept the snow out and the rain out and all that. Well, this home had glass that was special ordered from France. And when it came in too small to fit the panes there. Well, money was no object to them. They just ordered larger. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a wild story about Aaron Burr, and you'll hear all that over there. There have been rumors, and our historian has confirmed, that Aaron Burr and Margaret Blennerhassett were kind of smitten with each other. Love notes were left in the big sycamore. When you go out Lover's Lane on the wagon ride, the tree is not there anymore, but they would leave notes there for each other. So it's just intrigue and so much about them wanting to leave. That was his niece, which was a no-no. They agreed not to have children. He had 5. None were right. The oldest one that lived to close to adulthood had married, had 2 children. They died right away, 2 babies. They died right away because genetics, it just didn't work. So, and even after that thing failed with going west in Spanish territory and finding a new nation there, that's what Aaron Burr was all about, was doing that. And he knew this man had a lot of money, so they were already building canoes, they were buying guns, they were gathering all the smart people they knew, and they were going to take Aaron Burr and Harmon, take them with them out to the west Spanish territory and found a new nation out there. And obviously Aaron Burr was going to be president, and he was already vice president, and he had quit, and then he came back to be vice president again, and then he quit again, and so he just wanted power, I guess you might say. And he had found this man that had a great deal of money, and they could buy those guns and they could build those canoes, and they were going to take all the smart individuals that they knew with them, to have, if they didn't agree with what was going in the United States at that time, or the Union, or not even the Union yet, but as they were trying to get this country together. I think it was called Vandalia in the beginning, in the very, very beginning, beyond the 13 colonies, it was Vandalia. So, the history is just phenomenal. I think it's phenomenal because it's set there all those years since the 1800s is when that house was completed. It was finished at that time. And lived in about 5 years before Aaron Burr showed up. Burned down 5 years after that. So that house, was like 18 and 10 when it was gone. Its foundation was there. Nothing. It was an island that was used for softball games way back in the 1800s. 1900s softball games were big things, and so it was used as a way to spend a Sunday. You didn't go to Walmart. You got in the canoe and you packed a picnic and you went over there for the day. And it really wasn't about 1980 that the realization that was really still there and they could build upon it. A private builder actually built the home, ran out of money. Our state picked it up to make a state park out of it. And it's a big tourism spot, for people to come from all around the United States to visit this. And it's the intriguing romance, and which I'll go ahead and tell you this. I've been told I could say this. Craig, the superintendent here, has told me, I said, can I say this? And he said, yes. There is now proof, because of a lady that has now gone back into research again and found that Harmon Blennerhassett, who was not a handsome guy, he had a huge nose, very stoop shoulder. She was very short, very petite and little and beautiful and all that, but they now have found that he actually had a mistress. And that is never, here we are, 2025, and so we're learning more and more about this situation of what actually happened with Margaret and Harmon Blennerhassett. She was buried in a church cemetery in New York City. Of course, they had gone back to Ireland to live off his sister because they had no money. They'd lost through not only Aaron Burr, but they tried cotton in the South. It was a drought. That didn't work for 2 or 3 seasons. Then he was supposed to receive a judgeship up in Canada. The whole family traveled there. He was due to get it. The judge died before they got there. So everything failed. So they went back home to live with his sister and had no money at all. He died. He's buried off a little island off of Ireland. She returned to the United States, our country, to seek money from our government because the militia had torn up that home and for all the money that she lost, she was penniless then, so she came back to see if the government, from what I understand, she did not receive any money, from our government for it, and but she died here. She died of cholera. The son died of cholera a year apart. They both were buried in a small church cemetery, right in the heart of New York City. Small church, small cemetery. And very fortunately, our foundation here, as well as the state park, and our state worked with the city of New York, the state of New York, and we were able to have them, brought back up, the son and Margaret, and brought here. They are buried on the island now, so you can we gave them a full Episcopalian service, caskets, we're just put in a pine box. You're not given a service or anything like that. They were given everything and placed on the island on the right-hand side. When you look at the mansion, there's a little path that leads you down to it. Because he's in Ireland, we can never get him. He's underneath a humongous blacktop parking lot. Ireland suffered from the potato famine, and a lot of people went to poor cemeteries, way back then. He was poor, and that's where he was buried. But they have no idea what section of that cemetery he's even close to being in. And Ireland would not let us test DNA on all of and I don't blame them. Could you find him? I mean, that would be the thing. So, but she's here. She and the son are here, and they both died of cholera. But I've got to tell you, if you go to the museum, in the case back beyond the ticket booth, that room is back there, there are two, and I believe they're copper plaques. One has her name, the other one has a son name. They did a year apart. Somebody knew they were aristocrats, and someone had these plaques made up, and they went down onto that coffin, down in that ground when they were buried. I think that's the most to me, that's the most remarkable thing about the whole thing, that they realized what they were and given some kind of honor. That they did that. So anyway, I didn't mean to go on. You still have plenty of time to see.
You were amazing. So do we stay parked here and then just walk over, or how?
Well, if you want, you're certainly welcome. You're just right there. You're within 2.5 blocks of the building. We watch the cars all day. If you want to stay here,
we're parked
you're
here.
okay.
We're good.
You're all right. You're absolutely all right. So where are you folks from? I see West Virginia.
Yeah, we're from up close Morgantown, Kingwood, a little town of
About
Kingwood.
45 minutes from
There's
Morgantown.
an old inn there that I have eaten.
Yeah.
Kingwood Inn. I think it's what
Preston
it's called.
County Inn.
Yeah, and I've been to your Buckwheat Festival. I don't know how many times.
Well,
Yeah, that's where we're from.
that's where we're from, in
Well,
Kingwood.
I ate so many buckwheats one time, I got sick. I mean, I really was, Nice that they have the vendors, down below and all that, and it's an agricultural thing as well as a carnival.
And it's coming up.
It's
3 weeks or 4,
yeah,
whatever.
it is. You're
last
right.
weekend.
It's the end of September, isn't it?
Last weekend in September.
But his brother was Archibald Henderson, and Archibald Henderson was the first commandant of the Marines. He was the longest. He was 35 years, and he did their Semplify. He originated Semplify and how they grunt, and their mantra and all of that. And that's the brother owns that, or had that big hall up there called Henderson Hall. So, yeah, and very fortunately, a scout has honored this Archibald and has put a flag, American flag, on ground, and it's to honor Archibald Henderson, who was the first commandant of the Marines. But this was his brother. But anyway.
Here's a look around of the Parkersburg Welcome Center on the inside. It's very nice.
The railroad bridge that we have in Parkersburg is 153 years old. Is that bothering you? I'll move over way.
You're good.
153 years old. The trains at that time came right to there. There was no bridge there at all. And they had to load 3 train cars onto one barge and the locomotive on another barge. They went across the Ohio River. When they got on the other side, that railroad stopped on that edge as well. And the same thing, they unloaded those 3 cars, and then the thing, 153 years ago, that was finally built. So I can imagine the engineers just be absolutely delighted, that they can zip right across the Ohio River. When you travel that bridge right there and you look over at the railroad, I think about 4 or 5 of them are the old ones, and you can tell because they have the filigree, like they used to make everything really nice. The new ones are just, straight structure, straight steel. That's all they are. The left and the right, much nicer, a voyage for you to go over. It's a 20-minute.
To ride upstairs.
Yeah, to ride up, it really is. Downstairs is air conditioned, and you're not really seeing everything. The windows are there, but you're not really viewing. It's just much nicer. The flood wall that you're looking at, some of our cities do have them. This is built back in the 50s, and what you're looking at is 30 feet medium of all the 2 miles of the flood wall. The Army Corps of Engineers build those. Then they turn it over to the city, and it's up to the city to do
maintain
the up and down and anything like that. And if you go to the back of our building, you will see one that permanently stays up. There were 14 the Corps allowed to be open. There are only 3 that are open, have been open for years. One is this one right here, to get everybody down to the island that way, and it's been open for a long time. There's a yacht club upriver here, that one, and then we have a city called Vienna that lies north of here. That is one that comes up out of the ground with a steel wall. Interesting, on that, the Corps comes around every so often and they look at maintenance, what the city's been doing with it, and make sure they're proper. The daggone thing wouldn't come out of the ground. So if we'd flooded and they had to bring that thing up, it wasn't going anywhere. So they did all the repairs and it does come up now. Last year they tried for the very first time to use aluminum instead of logs. Wood goes together. Those railroad ties go together when it gets damp. Well, they did aluminum. Didn't have to put it all the way up. But our parking lot right here was absolutely flooded. We had the nicest swimming pool right here because those aluminum leaked. So I don't know what they're going to do next year, but we had them up twice this year already. And the heights of the flooding are listed right on that opening where you go through the wall, and the worst one was right up at the very top. This flooded, downtown flooded, not Julian Square, but all of these areas flooded. Not just this area down here, but on up too. So, but anyway, I'll let you.
This has been a Jill Garbart Studio video. Make sure to subscribe because there's more to come.